We are counting down the 15 British Depression-era foods your nan used to make. These are the meals that kept families alive through the hungriest decade of the 20th century. Dishes born in kitchens where the rent collector knocked and the larder echoed with emptiness. From foraged soups that cost nothing but shoe leather to mock versions of foods that only the wealthy could afford, each entry tells the story of a Britain that refused to starve. Expect ingredients that would shame a modern table, recipes whispered between neighbors at the pawn shop, and the fierce ingenuity of mothers who made something from nothing. Which forgotten favorite tops the list? Let us begin our countdown with number 15. Number 15. Toast water sustained the sick and the desperate alike, a drink so humble it barely qualified as food, yet kept countless families going. Housewives toasted stale bread until it blackened, then steeped the charred slices in boiling water until the liquid turned pale brown. The bread was fished out and the water drunk warm, sometimes with a pinch of salt if any could be spared. In the early 1930s, toast water appeared in sick rooms and sculleries across Britain, its thin warmth the answer when milk was too dear and tea leaves had been used 3 times over. Doctors recommended it for invalids, but mothers knew it also silenced hungry children when there was nothing for supper. Oral histories from the Welsh valleys recall the shame of serving toast water for tea, the children who drank without complaint, and the hope that tomorrow might bring something more. Yet toast water could not survive prosperity. As wages returned and kettles boiled with proper tea, the charred bread was forgotten. Today, it exists only in the memories of the oldest generation. Number 14. Crowdy filled Scottish bowls when the oatmeal ran low and the milk was on the turn. It was a dish so ancient it predated the Depression, yet it found new purpose in the hungriest years. Housewives stirred cold oatmeal into fresh buttermilk or soured milk, sometimes adding a pinch of salt or a drizzle of treacle. The result was thick, tangy, and surprisingly filling, a breakfast that cost almost nothing. In the crofts of the Highlands and the tenements of Glasgow, Crowdy appeared on tables throughout the 1930s. Children ate it cold from chipped bowls, fathers swallowed it quickly before the early shift, and mothers scraped the pot clean. Oral histories recall the sour smell, the grainy texture, and the way Crowdy could stretch a handful of oats into meals for a week. Yet Crowdy could not survive the modern age. Fresh milk replaced soured milk, and the taste for tangy, fermented oats faded. Today, Crowdy survives only as a name for a different dish entirely, the Depression-era breakfast forgotten. Number 13. Onion gravy supper asked nothing of the larder but a few onions and a handful of flour, yet it filled bellies when meat was a distant memory. Housewives sliced onions thin and fried them slowly in a scraping of dripping until soft and sweet, then stirred in flour and water to make a thick, savory gravy. The gravy was poured over slices of bread and served as the main meal. In the 1930s, onion gravy supper appeared on tables from Sheffield to Swansea. Children soaked their bread until it fell apart. Fathers ate in silence, and mothers pretended they had already eaten so portions could stretch further. Oral histories recall the pride in a well-made gravy, the way onions could be coaxed into sweetness as soup, with patience, and the quiet shame of serving nothing but bread and sauce. The taste was rich and savory, almost meaty despite containing no meat. Yet onion gravy supper could not survive prosperity. As wages rose, the bread and gravy meal faded from memory. Today, onion gravy survives only as an accompaniment, never again the main event. Number 12. Figgy duff crossed the Atlantic with sailors and settled into British ports, a steamed pudding so dense it could anchor a ship, yet so cheap it fed families when nothing else would. Housewives mixed flour, suet, and raisins or currants with a little treacle and enough water to bind, then tied the mixture in a cloth and boiled for hours until the kitchen filled with a sweet, heavy steam. In the 1930s, Figgy duff appeared on tables in Liverpool, Bristol, and the fishing towns of the southwest. Its dark, sticky mass, the answer to empty larders and hungry children. The raisins, called figs in sailors' slang, gave the pudding its name and its sweetness, while the suet provided the heft that made a small portion feel like a feast. Children watched mothers lower the cloth into the pot, learning that patience was the price of pudding. Oral histories recall the ritual of the Sunday Figgy duff, the way a single pudding could stretch across days with custard or milk, and the comfort of something sweet when everything else was bleak. The taste was rich and treacly, the texture dense enough to silence hunger for hours. Yet Figgy duff could not survive the supermarket age. Ready-made puddings replaced the boiled cloth parcels, and the skill of tying a proper duff faded. Today, Figgy duff survives only in Newfoundland, and the memories of those who grew up when every raisin counted. Number 11. Sewens kept the Scottish poor alive when even oatmeal was too dear. Sewens was a fermented dish so strange to modern palates that its very existence sounds like a tall tale. Housewives collected the husks and dust left over from milling oats, called sids, and steeped them in water for days until the mixture soured and separated into a thin, starchy liquid. This liquid was boiled until it thickened into a pale, slightly sour porridge that could be eaten hot or left to set like a jelly. In the 1930s, Sewens appeared on tables across the Highlands and the Lowlands alike, its unusual flavor the taste of survival. Children grimaced at the sourness, but mothers insisted it was good for them, knowing that the fermentation unlocked nutrients that plain oats could not provide. Oral histories recall the smell of the fermenting sids, the patience required to wait for the souring, and the way Sewens could feed a family on what the miller threw away. The taste was thin and tangy, closer to a drink than a meal, yet it kept hunger at bay when nothing else could. Yet Sewens could not survive prosperity. As oatmeal became cheap and plentiful, the laborious fermentation seemed pointless, and the taste for soured oats disappeared. Today, Sewens are a historical curiosity, remembered only by scholars and the oldest Scots who grew up when waste was unthinkable. Number 10. Mock crab brought the illusion of luxury to tables that had never seen the real thing, a spread so convincing that children believed they were eating like kings. Housewives grated hard cheese, mixed it with a little margarine, a dash of vinegar, and a scraping of anchovy paste or fish paste, then mashed the lot until it resembled the pink, flaky texture of dressed crab. The mixture was spread on bread or toast and served as a treat, often for Sunday tea when something special was expected, but the budget allowed nothing more. In the 1930s, mock crab appeared on tables across Britain, its fishy, tangy flavor the closest most families came to seafood. Children ate with enthusiasm, not knowing or caring that the crab was a fiction, while mothers took quiet pride in the deception. Oral histories recall the ritual of the Sunday mock crab, the careful mixing to achieve the right texture, and the small pleasure of serving something that looked like it belonged on a finer table. The taste was sharp and savory, the cheese and fish paste combining into something surprisingly convincing. Yet mock crab could not survive prosperity. As real shellfish became affordable and the need for pretense faded, the spread disappeared from tea tables. Today, mock crab is forgotten, its recipe preserved only in wartime cookbooks and the memories of those who grew up believing cheese and paste could taste like the sea. Number 9. Hasty pudding answered the cry of hungry children when the cupboard held nothing but flour and a little milk. a dish so quick and so simple it seemed barely worth the name. Housewives stirred flour into boiling milk, beating constantly to prevent lumps, until the mixture thickened into a smooth, pale porridge that could be sweetened with treacle or eaten plain with a pinch of salt. In the early 1930s, hasty pudding appeared on tables across Britain. Its bland, comforting mass, the last resort before the larder was truly bare. The taste was mild and floury, the texture smooth but heavy, and the smell as it cooked was of nothing more than hot milk and survival. Children ate without complaint, knowing that hasty was better than nothing, while mothers scraped the pot clean and hoped tomorrow would bring something more. Oral histories recall the speed of the making, the way a pudding could appear in minutes when visitors arrived unexpectedly, and the quiet shame of serving flour and milk as a meal. Yet hasty pudding could not survive the modern age. As convenience foods filled the shelves and tastes changed, the floury porridge faded from memory. Today, hasty pudding survives only in American adaptations and the stories of the oldest generation, who remember when haste was born of hunger, not convenience. Number 8. Potato peel soup turned what others threw away into something that could feed a family. A dish that demanded nothing but the scraps from the evening's potatoes and the determination to waste nothing. Housewives collected the peels, scrubbed them clean, and simmered them with an onion, a bay leaf, and enough water to fill the pot, cooking until the liquid turned starchy and the peels fell apart. The soup was strained or mashed, seasoned with salt and pepper, and served as a first course or a meal in itself when nothing else was available. In the 1930s, potato peel soup appeared on tables across Britain, its thin, earthy broth the taste of desperation and ingenuity. Children slurped from chipped bowls, not knowing that other families threw away what their mothers turned into supper. Oral histories recall the ritual of the peeling, the careful collection of every scrap, and the way a pot of peel soup could stretch across days with extra water. The taste was mild and starchy, the color pale, and the nutrition questionable. Yet for thousands of families, it meant the difference between eating and going without. Yet potato peel soup could not survive prosperity. As food became plentiful and peels returned to the compost heap, the skill of soup making from scraps was forgotten. Today, potato peel soup is a memory, its recipe preserved only in the stories of those who grew up when even the skin of a potato was precious. Dripping cake brought sweetness to kitchens that could not afford butter, a dense, fruit-studded loaf that made virtue of the fat scraped from the Sunday roasting tin. Housewives creamed beef dripping with sugar, added flour, dried fruit, and a little milk, then baked until the cake turned golden and the kitchen filled with a rich, slightly savory scent. In the 1930s, dripping cake appeared on tables across the industrial north and the mining valleys of Wales, its heavy slices the answer to children who needed something sweet, but whose mothers could not afford a proper sponge. The taste was rich and unusual, the beef fat adding a depth that butter could not match, while the dried fruit provided pockets of sweetness in every bite. Children ate thick slices for tea, not knowing or caring that their cake was made from what others threw away. Oral histories recall the pride in a well-risen dripping cake, the way it kept for days wrapped in a cloth, and the comfort of something sweet when everything else was bleak. Yet dripping cake could not survive the supermarket age. As margarine and butter became cheap, the taste for beef fat in sweet baking faded, and the recipe was quietly forgotten. Today, dripping cake survives only in the memories of the oldest generation, a ghost of the years when every scraping of fat had a purpose. Carrot jam stretched the sugar ration into something that tasted almost like the real thing, a preserve so clever it fooled children into thinking the war against hunger could be won. Housewives boiled carrots until soft, mashed them smooth, then cooked the pulp with sugar, lemon juice, and a little almond essence until the mixture turned thick and spreadable. The result was golden, sweet, and surprisingly convincing, especially when spread thin on bread and eaten quickly. In the 1930s, carrot jam appeared on tables across Britain. Its bright color and familiar sweetness, the answer to fruit that was too dear and sugar that had to stretch. Children spread it on toast, not knowing that the jam was made from vegetables rather than berries, while mothers took quiet pride in the deception. Oral histories recall the smell of the boiling carrots, the careful stirring to prevent catching, and the small triumph of serving jam when there was no money for fruit. The taste was sweet and faintly earthy, the almond essence providing a hint of marzipan that masked the vegetable beneath. Yet carrot jam could not survive prosperity. As real jam became affordable and the need for substitutes faded, the carrot version disappeared from tea tables. Today, carrot jam is a wartime curiosity, remembered only by those who grew up spreading orange paste on their morning toast and believing it was apricot. Number 5. Mock goose filled the Sunday roasting tin when the real bird was beyond reach, a dish that demanded nothing but offal and imagination, and yet delivered something that almost tasted like a feast. Housewives mixed chopped liver with breadcrumbs, sage, onion, and grated apple, shaped the mixture into a loaf, and roasted it until the outside crisped and the kitchen filled with a rich, herbal scent. In the 1930s, mock goose appeared on tables across Britain, its golden crust and savory filling the answer for families who wanted a proper Sunday dinner but could not afford the meat. The liver gave the dish its richness, the apple its sweetness, and the sage its air of celebration, all for a fraction of the cost of a real roast. Children believed they were eating something special, while mothers carved with quiet pride, knowing the truth but refusing to let poverty steal the ritual of Sunday lunch. Oral histories recall the anticipation of the mock goose, the arguments over who got the crispy end, and the satisfaction of a meal that looked like plenty even when the purse was empty. Yet mock goose could not survive prosperity. As poultry became cheap and the need for substitutes faded, the liver loaf disappeared from Sunday tables. Today, mock goose is mostly forgotten, its recipe preserved only in Depression-era cookbooks and the memories of those who grew up when imagination had to fill the gaps. Number 4. Bread and pullet soaked up the last of the gravy when the meat was gone and the plates were still not full. A dish so simple it barely counted as cooking, yet it sustained thousands through the hardest years. Housewives tore stale bread into chunks, placed them in a bowl, and poured over the hot gravy left from whatever meat had graced the table that week. Sometimes a bone, sometimes a scrap, sometimes nothing more than an onion browned in dripping. The bread swelled and softened, absorbing every drop of flavor until it became something richer than its parts. In the 1930s, bread and pullet appeared on tables across Britain, its soft, savory mass, the last course of meals that had no business feeding as many as they did. Children fought over the soggiest pieces soaked through with the taste of meat they might not see again until Sunday. Oral histories recall the ritual of the pullet, the careful distribution of the gravy, and the way a single pot could stretch across an entire family when bread was added at the end. The name itself was a joke, pullet being a young hen, though no chicken had come near the dish. Yet bread and pullet could not survive prosperity. As gravy became a condiment rather than a necessity, the bread-soaking ritual faded from memory. Today, bread and pullet is a phrase known only to the oldest generation, who remember when gravy was precious and nothing could be wasted. Number 3. Nettle soup foraged from hedgerows and wasteland, when the greengrocer's prices climbed too high and the garden had given all it could. Housewives sent children out with baskets and gloves, collecting the youngest nettle tops before they turned tough and bitter, then simmered the leaves with an onion and a potato until the kitchen filled with a green, earthy steam. The soup was thick and surprisingly nutritious, the nettles providing iron and vitamins that no other free food could match. In the 1930s, nettle soup appeared on tables across Britain, its vivid green color and grassy flavor the taste of desperation and ingenuity. Children who had been stung gathering the leaves ate without complaint, knowing that the soup was medicine as much as meal. Oral histories recall the ritual of the spring nettle harvest, the competition to find the best patches, and the pride in serving something that cost nothing but shoe leather and a few stings. The taste was mild and green, somewhere between spinach and grass, and the warmth of the soup silenced hunger when nothing else could. Yet nettle soup could not survive the supermarket age. As vegetables became cheap and foraging seemed unnecessary, the knowledge of where to find nettles and when to pick them faded. Today, nettle soup survives only in foraging circles and the memories of those who grew up when the hedgerows were the larder of the poor. Number 2. Pobs soothed hungry children to sleep when there was nothing else to give, a dish so simple it needed only bread, milk, and the will to keep going. Housewives tore stale bread into pieces, placed them in a bowl, and poured over warm milk, sometimes with a sprinkling of sugar or a scrape of butter if any could be spared. The bread softened into a warm, comforting mush that could be eaten with a spoon, filling small bellies when the cupboard held nothing more substantial. In the 1930s, pobs appeared on tables across Britain, especially at supper time, when children needed something warm before bed, but the main meal had already stretched as far as it could go. The taste was mild and milky, the texture soft and yielding, and the smell was of nothing more than comfort and survival. Children ate from chipped bowls, not knowing that their supper was the food of poverty, while mothers watched with a mixture of relief and shame. Oral histories recall the ritual of the evening pobs, the careful warming of the milk to make it stretch further, and the way a bowl of bread and milk could silence even the most restless child. Yet pobs could not survive prosperity. As proper suppers became affordable and children demanded more, the bread and milk dish faded from memory. Today, pobs survive only in the stories of the oldest generation, who remember when a bowl of warm mush was enough to make the world feel safe. Sugar sandwiches crowned the Depression-era table as the ultimate symbol of making do. They were a meal so poor it contained nothing but bread, margarine, and a sprinkling of white sugar, yet for thousands of children, it was the taste of home. Housewives spread thin slices of bread with the cheapest margarine, scattered over a teaspoon of sugar, and pressed the slices together to make a sandwich that crunched and dissolved on the tongue. In the early 1930s, sugar sandwiches appeared on tables across Britain. Their sweetness, the answer to children who needed something, anything, to fill the gap between meals. The taste was simple and immediate, the sugar dissolving into the fat, and the bread providing just enough substance to feel like food. Children ate them for tea, for supper, for the walk home from school when nothing else was waiting, and for many, they were the only treat a household could afford. Oral histories from the mill towns and the mining villages recall the ritual of the sugar sandwich, the careful rationing of the sugar bowl, and the way a single sandwich could make a child feel loved when there was nothing else to give. Mothers made them with steady hands and breaking hearts, knowing that sugar and bread was no proper meal, but refusing to let their children go hungry. The sandwich asked nothing of the kitchen but the barest essentials, yet it delivered a moment of sweetness in years that offered precious little. Fathers ate them too, though they pretended not to. and grandparents remembered their own childhoods when the same desperate measure had kept their families alive. Yet sugar sandwiches could not survive prosperity. As wages rose and tables filled with proper food, the bread and sugar meal became a shameful memory rather than a daily reality. Children who had grown up on sugar sandwiches swore their own families would never know such hunger, and the recipe was quietly buried along with the memories of the years when it was needed. Today, sugar sandwiches survive only in the stories of the oldest generation, told with a mixture of nostalgia and grief to grandchildren who cannot imagine a world where sugar on bread was a feast. They are the taste of a Britain that refused to surrender, a nation that found sweetness in the darkest years and made something from nothing when nothing was all there was. Across all 15 entries, from the desperate toast water that opened our list to the triumphant sugar sandwich at the very top, these forgotten Depression-era foods tell a powerful story of survival and ingenuity. Some dishes, like Sewens and potato peel soup, stand out as the starkest reminders of a time when even scraps and husks were precious, while others, such as mock goose and mock crab, reveal how imagination could transform poverty into something that felt almost like celebration. The common thread throughout is resourcefulness stretched to its absolute limit, the ability to turn water into broth, peels into soup, and sugar into love. These were not meals of choice, but of desperation, dishes born in kitchens where the rent collector knocked and the larder echoed with emptiness. Yet for the families who ate them, these Depression-era foods were also the taste of survival, the smell of mothers performing miracles with nothing, and the warmth of tables where everyone was fed even when feeding seemed impossible. This ranking is not just about what disappeared from our kitchens, but what these dishes represent: the unbreakable spirit of a generation that refused to starve, the deep bonds forged around tableware that had nothing to offer but love, and the quiet tragedy of prosperity that forgot where it came from. In the end, these 15 lost foods are more than recipes. They are the taste of Britain that made do, stretched every farthing, and found comfort in meals that cost almost nothing but meant everything. The pots have cooled, the recipes have faded, but the memory of what was lost lingers on, a reminder of the suppers that kept a nation alive when the world offered nothing but hunger.